If you're interested in alternative methods to heating your home, then stick around in the next few minutes while we share some important information on how you can maximize the efficiency of your wood-burning stove or your fireplace. Now, whether you buy your wood locally or you harvest your own, knowing the type of wood is just as important as knowing how and when it was seasoned. Hi, and welcome back to AmericanOutdoors.net. Now, the timber on this property is mostly hardwoods or deciduous trees such as this big red oak, and there's hickories and maples. Hardwood trees generally grow slower, they've got denser wood, and it's a little heavier. Now, some examples of softwoods would be pine, cedar, fir, spruce, or elm. Those are mostly used or best used as scrap for kindling to start your fire. They do burn quickly and they're easy to light. However, extensive use of softwoods in your stove or fireplace can build up an excessive level of creosote in the chimney. Now, hardwoods also burn hotter and they'll burn longer. And another benefit is they usually leave a good coal bed so that in the morning it's much easier to relight your fire. Now, you should ask your seller how recently the wood you're buying from them has been split. So in the case of this red oak, fresh cut red oak is going to have a red tint to it. It may also smell fresh. Now, this is a little bit more than a cord of wood, but your standard measurement for a cord is going to be 4 foot tall by 4 foot deep by 8 inches wide. Now, there's also a face cord, and a face cord is also 4 foot tall. However, it's approximately 18 inches deep by 8 foot wide. There is also the exact specific dimensions of the proverbial truckload, which you'll see advertised in your local papers frequently. Now, depending on the mood of the seller and the size of your truck, those dimensions can vary. Also, you can take 2 pieces of the wood and smack it together. If it creates a dull thud, that should tell you it still has water retention and it's not ready for burning. Now, if the bark on your wood is beginning to peel or it's gone altogether, that's a good sign that the wood is beginning to dry out. You can also check the end grain and look for cracks, which is a sign of shrinkage. This wood is beginning to gray and darken. That's also another good sign. Now, by themselves, that's great, but that's not absolute confirmation that the moisture content is low enough that this wood will burn efficiently. Now, one accurate method for determining moisture content in wood is to get a wood moisture meter. They don't have to be expensive. $20 and a quick trip to your local hardware store should find one that's more than capable. You can also go online to sites like eBay or Amazon, or you can just Google wood moisture meter and have at it. You should find dozens of the cheaper models as well as the higher end ones. And they don't have to be fancy. Now, this little meter is cheap, it's simple to use, and it's easy to read. It runs on a single 9-volt battery. Now, to check the moisture content in this piece of red oak, all I do is I turn the meter on, and I'm going to insert both of the probes at the end of this tester across the grain of the oak. And the little LCD screen in front will instantly give me the percentage of moisture content. 20% should be the maximum amount for wood that you're going to put in your stove right now. 10 to 15% is optimal. Now, just to show you a comparison, you can also check the moisture content of a live tree by simply going through the bark and into the trunk. Now, try to keep your wood off the ground by a few inches. That will help airflow to dry it, but it will also prevent rot and it will stop the termites from getting into your wood, which you do not want to carry into the house. Now, you can store your wood on a rack like this, or you can build your own. You can use pallets, blocks, bricks, whatever's available to you. Some people will like to put tarps over their wood to keep it dry, or they'll store it in a lean-to. To me, that's personal preference. However, if you do cut large portions of wood, you should stack them according to the date you cut them to help keep those piles uniform in their seasoning. Now, a quick word about the bark. Some people, including myself, we'll use scraps of bark for kindling to get a fire started, or just throw it in there and burn it up. That's fine as long as you're aware that bark will absorb water much faster than the log. So that can affect the way it burns, especially if you leave the bark outside all year long. Now, one method I use to get around that is during the summer, I will just go around and pick up scraps of bark off the piles or around the wood and throw it in buckets and put lids on it to store it and keep it dry. That way I've always got some kindling available whenever I need it. Henry Ford said once, "Chop your own wood and you'll be warm twice." Now, the wood that we use for burning indoors is usually from live trees that have either fallen or we've just chose to cut down. Normally don't use wood from dead trees. The wood's usually inconsistent, or there's just too much rot. That type of stuff we normally separate and we'll use for campfires outside or just some general burning. Now, this piece of wood right here has come from a stack outside that's been stored all summer long in the shade. So you'll notice on the end there's some fungus growing out. Now, it's perfectly harmless. It won't affect the burn quality of the wood, and it can be easily removed. Or you can simply move the stack into the sun to get rid of it. One thing that's very important too before you cut your wood is to measure the inside diameter of your stove. That way you'll know the maximum length of wood that you can set inside before you make your cuts. Also, when you bring wood into your house, you're going to be bringing in bugs. If you're bringing in wood during the winter, they're normally going to be found under the bark and in the holes in the wood, and they'll be hibernating. However, they will be active once the wood thaws out and the temperatures warm them up. Now, the wood that you've seen here today has been seasoned about 12 to 18 months. Now, there are edicts online that will tell you you should not burn wood indoors unless it's been properly seasoned 2 to 3 years. Personally, I feel everything is fluid. I feel that it depends on where you live, the health and condition of the tree when you cut it down, how much you split it, where you store it, how you store it. There just is no hard, fast, true edict on how to have properly seasoned firewood because we all live in different places. Now, I try to cut trees twice a year, once early in the spring and once early in the fall, and that gives me an approximate date for when I begin my seasoning. I've also found that using the sawdust from wood projects in our shop or the shavings our chainsaws make when we're cutting the wood up, mixed with some melted candle wax, makes excellent bricks for fire starter. We just throw a few of these in the stove in the morning and it makes lighting the fire very simple. Basically, we just light it and go. That is a wood roach. A wood roach should not be confused with the "I'm a lousy housekeeper" common household cockroach. They're not the same. Wood roaches are common whenever there's a lot of trees around. They are also attracted to light and like to climb into people's windows and doors if they have their lights on at night. They will look bad if they crawl around the floor when company's over. Yeah, they might freak some people out, but however, unlike their filthy cousin, they do not reproduce indoors. That's right, they do not reproduce indoors. So having a few leave your wood pile won't mean you're going to be overrun in a few days. Logs, or as they're also known, rounds, can be split several different ways. Splitting them in half will be quicker if you're trying to process a lot of wood. Now, depending on how big they are or the diameter of the wood, you may have to come back later and break them down further before use. You can split them into thirds. You can split them into quarters to allow them to dry quicker. The pieces are smaller that way, but you'll have to spend more time up front. Avoid stacking in a convoluted pile. This is going to slow your dry time. It's going to encourage rot and bugs, and then you've got this mess. Try to stack your wood in a uniform pattern, but it doesn't need to look geometrically perfect. The idea is to get the fastest dry time for your wood. The bark should face up to help dissipate rainfall. So stack a small section with the end grain facing you, then top it with another section perpendicular, and just repeat. Well, thanks to those of you who made it through my ramblings today. And whether you're using wood for a supplement to your furnace or your primary heat source, I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll check out some more of our articles and our videos at our website, AmericanOutdoors.net. Thanks, folks. Have a great day.